Hello, Yukon 28209. Yes, this is Candy Matson.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Candy Matson, Yukon 28209. This is the start of a mystery. Our main character is a San Francisco girl detective, Candy Matson. There are others in the show, too. An Inspector Mallard, a gent who calls himself Rembrandt Watson, a cowboy, a dude ranch owner, and a gal the casting agency assured us was a dowager, slightly boozy. There are a few other voices along the way, too. I think that has all the makings of a good mystery show, don't you? Well, let's go on from here and find out. So, here's Candy Matson.
Like the man just said, this is the start of a mystery. Christmas had me completely tuckered out. No one had invited me to the Rose Bowl game or the East-West at Kezar, so I decided to make like a bear and hibernate over New Year's. It worked out perfectly because, as my old friend Rembrandt Watson put it,
you wish to greet 1950 in some remote spot? Is that the idea, Dove?
That's the idea, Ducky.
I have the perfect place for you. A dude ranch, reasonable, just on the other side of Sonoma, in the Valley of the Moon.
Valley of the Moon. New Year's Eve in the Valley of the Moon. Rembrandt, that sends me.
Good. Maybe it can send us both. I have a commission to take some pictures up there for a brochure they're putting out. I have to be there tomorrow afternoon.
Yes?
I see you're nibbling at the bait. I shall be blunt. Why don't you drive me up?
You've won your point. I'll pick you up tomorrow at what time?
Let us be spectacular and say high noon.
High noon.
And do bring some cash, will you, girl? I'm a little short.
I thought you were going up there on a commission.
Yes, I am. But they have some simply divine one-arm devices.
And
there goes me commission.
Naturally, a girl has to look right to welcome in the new year. That gave me the perfect excuse to squander a few hard-earned dollars and cents on some lovely clothes that didn't make sense but cost dollars. The afternoon was aging gracefully, a little gray here and a wrinkle or two there. So I stopped for a parfait, very dry and no olive. With that mission accomplished, I headed back over Kearny Street, and as I wheeled past Portsmouth Square and the Hall of Justice, I realized I hadn't seen my chum Mallard in quite some time. Inspector Ray Mallard of San Francisco Homicide. A very smart cop who can smell a clue a mile away. But when it comes to me, he very conveniently carries his own fog around.
Well, Candy, my little cupcake.
Mallard, dear, you called me your little cupcake.
Sure, it's still the Christmas season. Let's be charitable, I always say. What do you always say?
In a situation like this, nothing. I just exude a stream of steam from the top of my head.
Very cute. What brings you around our boarding house?
You, darn it. I thought you might like to know I'm going away for a week.
What did they get you on? Petty theft?
Yeah, and they got me as I tried to make my getaway on a tricycle. But for your information, Inspector, I'm spending my New Year's Eve up in the Valley of the Moon.
Oh, want to get away from it all, huh?
That's right. You in particular.
In that case, may I get you a midwinter vacation off to a flying start?
You can try. How?
I'm not working tonight. How's about a movie?
You've got yourself a date. What's playing? Tex A-Cup. That's what I thought. Where's Tex and his faithful horse Mustard playing this time?
Oh, at the Plaza. And the pictures of Pip, too.
I'll bet.
I read all about it.
Yeah.
Hot lead over Laredo. Look, here's the ad in the paper.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Show me.
There. Yeah. A searing epic of the West's wild grandeur. Men as rugged as the mountains.
Wee.
A singing saga of scorching bullets, strumming guitars, and supple senoritas. And starring the champ of the Cowboys, Tex A-Cup. Now, what more can one ask in a motion picture?
Popcorn.
Oh, we'll have that, too.
I went home, did some packing for the trip the next day, fixed something to eat, and then changed into my spurs that jingle-jangle for Tex A-Cup. Mallard arrived, we took off. We got to the early show, so we managed to get some good seats. Of course, he wasn't kidding about the popcorn. He got a great big bag of that. We fumbled our way down the darkened aisle and found a place to sit. The movie was almost over.
Oh, Tex, the whole thing looks like a gosh dang frame up to me. They must have snuck off with them head of cattle and over into Inyo. Yep, I reckon.
Here, Candy. These seats are okay.
They must have gone that way, all right.
Sure.
Only one thing.
Sorry, lady.
So am I, Pete.
What happened to Tex? Last time I seen her, she was leaving.
Seats are okay. Have some popcorn?
No?
No.
I wonder where the sheriff is. He said he was going to be riding by directly. Oh, probably
What?
I said sure is good popcorn.
Oh.
Sure you don't want some?
What?
I said, are you sure you don't want some popcorn?
I keep saying no. No, thank you. I don't want any popcorn, Mallard, dear.
If you'll pardon me, I'm going home and catch this on television.
Like saying, not with Cass missing this way. I understand your feeling all about it.
After hot lead over Laredo, I suffered through 6 reels of a bouncy college picture. Freshmen looked like holdovers from the early days of the war. Then a newsreel, then a cartoon, then the trailers, then again Texaco. So we got out about midnight, and I drove Mallard back to the Hall of Justice. As he got out of the car...
Well...
Oh, now that's what I call sharp dialogue. On leaving the lady, all he can say is, oh, well.
Oh, nothing personal, Candy.
Now he laughed at me.
Well, I was just thinking. You're going up to the Valley of the Moon for a rest. Is that the idea?
Well, yes. That and trying to get away from Texaco.
I know you too well, Candy. You're not going to have any rest. Look at the headline on that paper in the newsstand there. Man missing in Sonoma mystery.
And Sonoma can have it. Mallard, dear, if I so much as step inside the Sonoma city limits, you can come and lead me away quietly.
You know something? I'm going to remember that.
Mallard waved goodbye and went inside. I didn't like the way he said that. But I had other things to think about, such as getting home and getting some sleep. So I did. And in the morning, I drove over to California Street, picked up Rembrandt. We headed out across the Golden Gate Bridge up toward Sonoma. The Valley of the Moon wasn't too far, a couple of hours of leisurely driving with time out for readjustment. And you're there. Then another 8 miles north and east, and there was the Dude Ranch.
This is it, dear. What do you think of it?
Perfect, just perfect. Why, Rembrandt, dear, it's a real ranch.
Of course, Dove, a going concern. They only take in guests as a sideline. Oh, here comes a man. I imagine that's Mr. Lawrence, the owner.
Oh, well, I'll shut off the motor.
Good morning.
How do you do, sir? Would you be Mr. Lawrence, perchance?
Yes, and you?
Watson, Rembrandt Watson. I'm here to take some pictures for you as we discussed via the Dell system.
Oh, yes, Watson. Right on time. That's good.
Oh, Candy, may I present Mr. Lawrence, owner of the Double L, Miss Matson.
How do you do?
Miss Matson was wondering if she could get accommodations for about a week, Mr. Lawrence.
What? Now, wait a minute, Watson. I'm paying you a substantial fee for this job, and I won't get stuck with non-paying guests.
Oh, I think you're laboring under a misapprehension.
Hold it, Rembrandt. Look, Mr. Lawrence, I'm here as a commercial guest. I'm not asking for any favors. And I doubt if I'd stay here now if you got down on your bended knuckles.
Oh, now, wait a second. I didn't mean it just that way. I apologize. It's only that, I've had some tough luck with people lately who seem to be only too intent on beating me out of their bills. Please, Miss Matson, excuse me. I just jumped to conclusions, that's all.
I think you set a new record for the jump.
Oh, forget it, Dove. Do.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you have room for me, Mr. Lawrence?
Why, yes, of course. A delightful cabin just in back of the ranch house. Not being prepared, it'll take about an hour to get it in shape. Will that be all right?
Yes, sure. We can eat in the meantime.
Fine. I'll get one of the boys to fetch your luggage. Oh, you can park over there under the old stables.
Oh, no garage?
Well, again, I have to apologize, Miss Matson. The garage is overloaded now. We have a sheriff's posse up here. The owner of the ranch next to mine disappeared yesterday afternoon. The sheriff is searching the entire vicinity around here.
Dove, are you all right? Well, speak to me, girl. What is it?
I'm all right. I just happened to think of something Mallard once said last night. I pushed my assembled horsepower into the stables where they belonged, and Rembrandt took me by the arm and steered me into the ranch house. It was a beautiful place, a tall cathedral-like living room with a crackling fireplace about the size of Dante's Inferno at one end. Off to this one side of the fireplace was a cozy little bar. The sun was just going over the yardarm, so I figured an old-fashioned would be quite in order. Old-fashioned was right. Behind the bar was the personification of an old-fashioned cowboy. Real chaps, a leathery face, and little squint wrinkles around his eyes. Well, howdy, Tex. It seems like as if I done saw you in a movie last night.
Howdy yourself, ma'am. Nope. Must have been two other cowboys. I've been working here at the Double L for almost 5 years.
My mistake, partner. Matson's the handle. What's yourn?
Is that the way cowboys talk, ma'am?
Yeah, Hollywood and Vine variety. I'm glad to know you.
Call me Jeff, Miss Matson.
Check. This is Rembrandt Watson. Rembrandt? Jeff.
Are those shoulders sewn in, or are they real?
I'm afraid they're real. Hiya, Mr. Watson.
You riding herd on all those bottles back there, Jeff?
Yep, for better or worse. Chang, our regular bartender, took powder on us day before yesterday.
Uh-oh. Seems like he picked a bad time to do a run-out.
Oh, you mean the missing gent from Glen Valley?
Glen Valley?
Yeah, that's the ranch next to ours. Yeah, I understand the police are on the lookout for Chang, but he didn't do it. He's a good, honest Chinese boy.
Even so, it's a bad time to disappear.
Oh, I admit it doesn't sound good. Well, if you folks won't mind the efforts of an amateur dispenser, what can I do for you?
An old-fashioned for me, Jeff.
Well, that I can try.
From now on, it gets easier. Rembrandt only wants the Coke.
Well, I can sure fix that all right. Uh-oh.
What's wrong?
Here comes the Duchess.
The Duchess?
Yeah, one of our guests. She's been out here about 2 weeks, and she can go through distilled spirits faster than a buzzsaw through mushy pine. And I hope you're prepared to talk.
Always, Jeff. Always.
Hello, my dear. You just arrived, haven't you?
Mentally or physically?
Oh, my! A sense of humor, too. I shall enjoy your company. Are you staying long?
Well, I'm not sure now. My plans are rather indefinite.
Oh, you'll love it here, Miss...
Matson. And may I present Mr. Rembrandt Watson?
Charmed, I'm sure.
As of now, me life has commenced.
Oh, you delightful lad. Jeff, dear boy, make me just a little nip for the old favorite, will you?
Sure. One painkiller coming up. Here's your old-fashioned, Miss Matson.
Thanks.
Mr. Watson, your coat.
Thanks, sir.
Young lady, you must be an actress. You look like one.
Well, no, I'm not.
I used to be an actress, a famous one. I toured all over the continent with the greatest of stars, the finest of plays. I was the toast of London, Berlin, Vienna.
Yes, but
I had kings and princesses worshipping at my feet.
Oh.
I was once the vortex of an international incident. But no matter. Those days are gone forever now.
And here's your tonic, Duchess.
What? Oh, thank you, Jeff. Well, as we used to say, here's to crime.
What was that?
It's a perfect toast. We have quite a mystery in this part of the country, young lady.
And so I keep hearing.
I can't understand. Mr. Ferguson had everything to live for.
Mr. Ferguson?
The man who owned Glen Valley. Wealthy, good-looking, in the best of health.
You seem to know quite a bit about the gentleman, Duchess.
Only what I read in the newspapers, and I can't understand it. Well, as I said, here's to crime.
We dallied at the bar for a few more moments. Then Jeff informed me that lunch was ready, and Rembrandt and I ate. We managed to duck the Duchess. I don't think I could have taken her with food. After lunch, Lawrence showed me to my cabin. It was, as he said, delightful, with a warming flame in the fireplace. It was cheery and comfy, and I felt completely at home. Lawrence left to talk to Rembrandt. They were going to discuss the pictures he wanted taken. I felt like going riding, so I changed into my jeans and started to leave. But as I did...
Oh, sorry, Miss Matson. I didn't mean to frighten you.
Oh, well, you did, Jeff.
No, I was just about to knock when you opened the door.
Oh, that's okay. Was there something you wanted?
Well, you're in riding clothes, and that answers my question.
The question being?
Well, were you going riding? You see, the boss wanted to know if you were going riding, and if so, did you want some company? I usually show the guests around the acreage.
Well, yes, that'd be wonderful.
And how long do you want to be out, Miss Matson?
About 3 hours or so.
Sure. In that case, we'll take the deluxe tour, over across the back 60 and up through Manzanita Canyon. You know, when we get up to the top of Iron Mountain, you can see the whole Valley of the Moon.
That's for me, Jeff. Let's hit the leather. Jeff was obviously born to the saddle and came into this world teething on a tether rein. You couldn't tell where the horse left off, and Jeff began, a real rider. We nosed out through the clump of ranch buildings and on into open space. I had a fine horse under me, and I really felt like I was living. We'd been riding about an hour when we came across a little stream. Jeff indicated we should stop and water the horses. How long have you been a cowboy, Jeff?
Oh, about as long as I can remember.
Round here?
No, up around Montana. Then little by little, I gradually drifted further west. Hit upon the Valley of the Moon about 5 years ago. Fell in love with it. I've been here ever since. Reckon I'll stay here, too.
No, I don't blame you. Excuse me if I seem to be full of questions, Jeff.
Well, that's what I'm here for, ma'am.
Good. Because I've got a couple more. What's up that little draw there on the other side of the creek?
Nothing but a tangle of manzanita. Scrub oak and brush.
Pretty hard to get through there,
Hard. It's impossible. Well, I've seen chipmunks get fouled up in that draw.
Uh-huh. Then how come those boot prints are going right up there?
Boot prints? I don't see any. Well, hey, you're right.
Either boot prints or the result of shoes with Cuban heels.
Well, now, there's a strange one.
Exactly what I thought, too.
Say, you know, something just dawned on me. Matson. Didn't I see your pictures in the Frisco papers a couple of weeks back?
San Francisco.
Beg pardon?
San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, San Francisco. Excuse me. Oh, sure. You know, the way you was asking those questions just now, it hit me. You're a detective.
I'm afraid you got me, partner.
Uh-oh, wait a minute, Miss Matson. Listen.
Let's duck, Jeff.
Too late now.
What's that? Well, whoa there. What are you doing over this way, Jeff?
Hi, boss. Well, say, you give us quite a little start.
You haven't answered my question.
Oh, we just stopped to water the horses, Mr. Lawrence. Miss Matson here's a mighty fine rider. She wanted to make the big circle of the ranch.
Well, you certainly picked a fine time to do it.
Whoa.
The sheriff's posse is out around this way. You're liable to get shot. Now get back to the ranch, pronto.
Just a moment, Mr. Lawrence. You've been uncivil ever since I got here, and I don't like to be dictated to.
It's like being on board ship, Miss Matson. The captain is the law. I'm the owner of this property, and you'll do as I say. Now get moving, both of you. And if you don't like my attitude, you can leave any time you want.
Leave? Now?
Yes.
Oh, no, Mr. Lawrence. I'm beginning to find your ranch extremely interesting. Jeff and I wheeled our horses about and sifted back to the ranch house. I looked back a couple of times, but there was no sign of Lawrence. I was mad, and Jeff must have sensed it because he was smart enough to keep his mouth closed. As I dismounted at the stables and headed for the house, he waved me a forlorn adios and disappeared. Just as I went through the door, I was greeted by Rembrandt.
Oh, there you are, Dove. I was about to institute a searching party for you.
Oh, I was safe enough until I came to grips with a thing called my own temper. What have you been doing, Ducky?
I've had a most delightful afternoon, Candy dear. I've been playing canasta with the Duchess.
Canasta? Ooh, you don't know how to play canasta.
Well, I know that, and you know it, but I don't think the Duchess does. She celebrates each hand with a hefty pull on her bitters.
How'd you manage to make any sense out of the game?
That has me puzzled, too. All I do is put down some cards, any cards, and she'd congratulate me.
Maybe you've got a green thumb for the game. Incidentally, I thought you were going to be taking pictures this afternoon.
Called off on account of the law. Mr. Lawrence had to ride out into the lone prairie and deliver a phone message to the sheriff. He's making like ghost riders in the sky out there. Do go and change, dear. You smell of horses.
Yes, I know.
Oh, and incidentally, we're to have a soiree this evening. 2 more guests arrived. The cook tells me there's to be a little entertainment after dinner.
Good. Around here, anything will be an improvement. I didn't tell Rembrandt I was going to change, so it wasn't a fib when I stayed in my jeans. I went back to the stables, got the boy to rig me another horse, and headed out toward that creek again. I rode faster this time, because I'd noticed something else there besides the footprints. It was a battered 10-gallon hat on the far side of the creek with studded initials JF on the crown. But when I got there, the cupboard was bare, but good. Not only was the 10-gallon hat gone, but the boot prints had been completely obliterated. I stayed for another few minutes of study and frustration and then went back to the ranch. I changed, met Rembrandt, had dinner, and then we relaxed in the living room.
Oh, Dove, I'm so full. This outdoor living makes me ravenous.
Outdoors? I don't think you've stepped out of this building since we got here.
Well, then it's the thought of outdoor living that does it. Oh, there are the new arrivals over by the fire.
Did you meet them?
No. They looked at me as though I might soil their escutcheon, whatever that is.
I can see what you mean.
Hi, folks. Do you enjoy your dinner?
Oh, hello, Jeff. Yes, it was wonderful.
Has anybody seen Mr. Lawrence or the Duchess?
We haven't seen Lawrence, no. The Duchess is over there writing a letter.
Oh. Well, I hope you'll all drop around in about an hour. I'm going to do some singing and a little guitar plucking.
Is there anything you don't do, Jeff?
No, very little. But none of them too darn good either.
Sure, we'll be here. Won't we, Rembrandt?
What? Oh, yes, I go with 3 diamonds and a joker.
Jeff left, Rembrandt snoozed, and I threw a wrap around my shoulders and took a stroll around the patio. The air felt good. I went over to my cabin, picked up some cigarettes, and started back. But as I came close to the cabin opposite mine... Oh! It was the Duchess. I'd recognize those tones and groans anywhere. Duchess?
Yes?
This is Candy Matson. Are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right. Touch of indigestion, I should imagine.
Oh, is there anything I can do? Can I get you something?
Oh, what a dear thing you are. No, I'll be all right. I have these attacks all the time. You run along and enjoy yourself. Jeff is going to sing. He's such a dear boy.
But you're sure you'll be okay?
Yes, dear. We'll go along.
Oh, here. Now, let me put a blanket over you.
Oh.
Here, and take off your shoes. You'll be ever so much more comfortable.
You're so sweet. So pretty. You remind me of myself when I was young. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I tucked the old girl in and left her to dream of the past and went back to the ranch house. Jeff was just pulling up a chair in front of the fireplace.
Now, you'll have to understand, folks, I'm not a singer. I don't pretend to be. I just warble along the way I feel. Now, is there any particular kind of cowboy tune you'd like to hear?
No, Jeff. Why don't you just sing a favorite of yours?
Good idea. Just do what comes naturally.
Okay, you asked for it. Let's see. Here's one I think you might like. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie, where the coyotes howl and the wind blows free in a narrow grave just 6 by 3. But bury... Oh, hiya, boss.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go right on with what you were doing.
No, Mr. Lawrence. You arrived just in time. The entertainment's over.
What? What are you talking about, Miss Matson?
I said the show's over. Is the sheriff around?
Yes, he and his men are outside. They're just leaving for the night.
You better call him back, right now. The Duchess is dead in her cabin.
What?
Poisoned.
Wait a minute. Sheriff! Sheriff Hobbs!
Is that you, Lawrence?
That's right. Can you and your men come back for a spell? Seems we have more trouble.
Okay. We'll be over as soon as we tie up the horse.
Now then, what's this all about?
Well, I could tell you, Lawrence, but I think it'd be more proper coming from the star himself. Don't you think so, Jeff?
Looks like this is it, doesn't it? You know, you're smart, Miss Matson. Like they say in that ad, never underestimate the power of a woman.
That's right. That letter the Duchess wrote proves your point.
What? How'd you get hold of that letter? I thought she wrote a duplicate. Is that it?
Like you say, never underestimate the power of a woman.
Wait a moment. I don't understand what's going on here.
Go ahead, Miss Matson. You tell me. Looks like I'm not the star any longer.
Well, Lawrence, up to about 2 weeks ago, you had as nice and gentle a cowpoke working for you as there ever was. Then the Duchess arrived. She wasn't kidding when she claimed to have mingled with nobility, important people. As a matter of fact, she had an inside tip about your ranch and the one next door, Ferguson's place, Glen Valley. Didn't you receive a fantastic offer for your property from a big wine company just recently, Lawrence?
Why, yes, I did.
So did Ferguson. They were going to merge the two places and make it one of the world's largest vineyards.
I didn't know about that part of it.
But the Duchess did. She wanted in on the ground floor. That's why she came out here. She tried to talk business with Ferguson, but he'd have none of it. So, in one of her boozy moments, she hit upon the idea of doing away with Ferguson. But she didn't have the nerve to go through with it. That's when she approached Jeff here and cut him in on the deal. Jeff was tired of the poor but honest cowboy routine, saw a chance to make some heavy sugar, and went along with the gag. Right, Jeff?
She's got it straight so far, boss.
Jeff, I can't believe my ears.
Oh, that's nothing. Just wait a while. Jeff and the Duchess were out riding one afternoon when, by chance, Ferguson rode up, too, just where the boundaries of the two ranches meet. While the Duchess talked to Ferguson, Jeff sneaked around and back and bashed in his head. They hauled him up to that draw where you bumped into us this afternoon. I know now why you ordered us out of there. On the other side of that snarl of brush and manzanita, there's a quicksand pit. That is now Ferguson's permanent residence.
This is terrible. Terrible.
In a hurry to dispose of your late neighbor, they left shoe prints along the bank of the creek. And they also overlooked Ferguson's hat with his initials on it. I'm mighty glad you came by when you did, Laura. After I had noticed the boot prints, I think Jeff was going to dump me into the quicksand, too.
You're right again. After the boss sent us back in, I sort of figured to get you tonight instead.
And then, Lawrence, you were going to be next. Because in your will, you would name Jeff as your sole heir. Is that right?
That's right. I loved him like a son.
Then the Duchess and Jeff could have swung a hard bargain with that wine outfit. All very smooth except for one thing.
One thing? I'm kind of curious about that one thing, Miss Matson.
Alcohol, Jeff. It's not only lifting to begin with, but also acts as a depressing agent. The Duchess had been imbibing all day, and after dinner she arrived at that point of depression, realized what a horrible thing she had done, and she wrote the full story about the wine company and Jeff's duplicity, and made a copy. You were afraid of that yourself, Jeff. That's when you went out and slipped the old girl a lethal Mickey. I heard her groaning and went in to investigate. She said it was indigestion, but I knew differently. Her breath. And I knew, too, that she'd be dead within 5 minutes. Then I saw her shoes, Cuban heels with mud caked on the inner side of the arch. That's when I had a hunch the letter she was writing had a definite meaning. You overlooked it, Jeff. I found it. Where only a woman would think of looking. Tucked inside her bosom. I'm sorry, Lawrence. I had you figured wrong from the start. I was the one who was wrong. You aren't hard at all. You're soft as putty. Well, Jeff, here comes the sheriff.
Yeah, so I see. Well, I'm ready for him. You can't beat a royal flush with a pair of deuces. Or should I say, dunces. Go. There won't be any fuss. And all of a sudden, it dawns on me. People should accept their lot. If you're born to be a cowboy, just stay a cowboy. And if you're born a millionaire, don't fight that either. Well, goodbye, Miss Matson. And I'm glad the boss happened along when he did, because I don't think quicksand would look good on me.
Like Jeff said, he went quietly. No trouble. Too bad he wasn't content to be just a ranch hand, simple and unspoiled. Because as Rembrandt had noticed, he did have wonderful shoulders. He played the guitar, he sang, and he made fine old-fashioned. All in all, a very nice guy, except for 2 vices, hitting from the behind and poisoning. The Valley of the Moon? Oh, I'll go back. It's lovely. After all, one man with a snarled brain can't undo the work of the original master painter.
Listen again next week at this same time. For excitement and adventure, just dial
Candy Matson, Yukon 28209.
Heard tonight were Helen Fleeb as the Duchess, Lou Tobin as Lawrence, and Clancy Hayes as Jeff. Henry Leff is Inspector Mallard and Jack Thomas as Rembrandt. The program stars Natalie Masters as Candy and is written and produced by Monty Masters. Sound effects were created by Bill Brownell and Jay Rendon. Eloise Rowan is heard at the organ. The characters in tonight's story are entirely fictitious, and any resemblance to actual people is purely coincidental. The program came to you from San Francisco. Dudley Manlove speaking. You are tuned for the stars on NBC.
Presenting Orson Welles as the Third Man. The Lives of Harry Lime. The fabulous stories of the immortal character, originally created in the motion picture The Third Man, with zither music by Anton Karas.
That was the shot that killed Harry Lime. He died in a sewer beneath Vienna, as those of you know who saw the movie The Third Man. Yes, that was the end of Harry Lime. But it was not the beginning. Harry Lime had many lives, and I can recount all of them. How do I know? It's very simple. Because my name is Harry Lime. Don't get me wrong, I love Budapest. From Budapest come goulashes and shardashes. Shardashes being something you dance and goulash being something you eat if you go for all that paprika. Me, I love it. So, when I got that telegram, I took the first train to Hungary. Maybe I'd better tell you about the telegram first. Dear Mr. Lime, it said, my bank is going to be robbed and I need your help. It was signed Fekete, evidently a man's name, nobody I knew. I knew all about bank robberies, however, and I was dying to help. Besides, as I say, I love paprika. So I started packing right away.
And now Orson Welles as Harry Lime, the Third Man, in today's story, Too Many Crooks.
Before calling at the bank, I stopped at a cute little flower shop I happened to notice across the way. Good morning. Would you give me something for my buttonhole? Why, Lily. Lily, what are you doing here?
We have some very pretty pink gardenias.
Oh, come on, Lily. Don't tell me you don't remember me. And how are all the Corellis?
The who?
Don't give me that, Lily.
My name is Lulu.
Well, it used to be Lily, and you used to be a blonde. And the Corellis, as you know perfectly well, because you used to work for them, are the best bank robbers in Central Europe. Well, what about it, honey?
Here are your gardenias, Harry. Now get out of here.
Okay, honey, okay. No need to get in a hassle.
I'm telling you, Harry, get out.
I never was one to argue, so I took my gardenia across the street and wore it into the bank.
Mr. Fekete will see Mr. Harry Lime.
You can go in now, Mr. Lime.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Fekete will see you.
Yes, that's what I gathered.
This way, please. And,
thank you.
Oh, Mr. Lime,
yes.
will you please extinguish your cigarette? Mr. Fekete does not approve of smoking.
Thanks. I'll bear that in mind.
Mr. Lime.
Come in and shut the door. There's a date.
Do you mind if I sit down, Mr. Fekete, or is there a rule against that?
Sit down. You're a very impertinent young man, but I don't mind that. I am an impertinent older man. We ought to get along together very nicely.
What's your proposition, Mr. Fekete?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Just what I said. What's your proposition?
Listen to me, Lime. I don't make propositions. I consider them.
Have it your own way, Fekete. I'm a big boy now, and I'm not so easily impressed.
What do you mean, impressed?
All this big desk, double secretary, Mr. Fekete will see you now. Mr. Fekete doesn't approve of smoking, busy executive hoopla. May go down very well with the bumpkins who give you their money to invest. It doesn't mean a thing to me. You sent for me, didn't you? I crossed 3 national borders to get here and lost a lot of time, so don't ask me what's my proposition. What's yours, Mr. Fekete?
Very good indeed. You're just the man I hoped you were. Have a cigar.
Wouldn't that be breaking the rules?
I make the rules, Mr. Lime, and I don't like cheap tobacco smoke. Nor do I enjoy being forced to distribute these very costly custom-made Havanas to every, what is it you call them, bumpkin, who comes into my office. I think you'll enjoy these.
Thanks.
Light?
Thanks.
Good. Now that we're a little more at ease, suppose you tell me something about yourself.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
I wish you'd stop asking me what I mean by everything I say, Feckety. I said why, and I meant why. You put private detectives on my trail. You found me. You made me a very substantial down payment on services to be rendered. And now, when I get here, you want me to tell you about myself. That's just plain silly, old man. It's obvious that if you went to all that trouble and expense to get me here, you knew about me already. I'm the one to ask the questions, not you.
Better and better. Mr. Lime, if you were just a little less notorious as a crook, I'd offer you a vice presidency in my bank.
I forgive the insult, Mr. Feckety.
What do you mean, insult?
There you go asking me what I mean again. I meant insult.
Now, don't you get pompous on me, Lime. You are a crook, a world-famous one. You don't want to deny that?
What I don't want is very simple, Mr. Feckety. I don't want to be a vice president of your bank.
Huh? Oh, I follow you now. Don't worry, Lime.
Right.
I promised you $20,000.
That's right.
Or its equivalent in Hungarian pesos.
Oh, wait a minute.
And you'll get it without having to serve as an officer of this
You
bank.
promised me $20,000, old man. There weren't any gimmicks in the agreement about the joke money you folks pass off on each other locally. I know. I carry my own microscope for reading the fine type.
Very well, very well. $20,000 it is. Don't you want to know what I expect you to do for it?
Mr. Feckety, you keep making me repeat myself. I told you before that I'm a big boy now. If you're giving me $20,000, I can relax, not worry about asking you silly questions. You're going to get around eventually to telling me what you expect me to do for it.
Did you ever hear of a bank giving a reward?
Yes, but only after a bank robbery.
Exactly. Exactly. Only after a bank has been robbed. I'm reversing the procedure line. I'm giving the reward first.
Oh, so that's the little caper, is it? You want me to rob your bank for you?
Oh, not at all, not at all. A reward is usually given for apprehending the thieves who have robbed the bank. What I want you to do, Harry, I may call you Harry?
Certainly, old man. Call me Harry if it gives you any fun.
Well, Harry, what I want you to do is to apprehend the robbers before the robbery is committed. Very clever, don't you think so? Have another cigar.
In my business, I may get in the way of an awful lot of screwy deals, but I can tell you that never in a long career have I been offered in complete seriousness a loopier proposition than Mr. Feckety's. It seems the key to the whole affair was Mr. Feckety's junior officer in the bank, a certain Mr. Fodor.
Ladislaus Fodor is the full name, Harry. He's one of our vice presidents.
I see.
I tell you this right now, the man is an unprincipled criminal.
Oh?
And come here, and I'll show him to you. Come this way. You can see him through the glass panel.
Yes.
There he is.
Oh, that one.
Second desk to the right. With all those silly hairs pasted over his bald head. That's the man.
He doesn't look very dangerous to me.
Fodor? Dangerous? He has the brain of a backward bird and the charm of a worm. Now that I look back on it, I can't imagine how I ever persuaded myself to be jealous of him.
Jealous? I don't follow you, old man.
If I have a fault, Harry, it is this. I do tend to be jealous. Lulu often chides me about it, and I have promised to curb the instinct, but there, it is a part of my character.
Lulu? You mean the girl in the flower shop across the way, that Lulu?
She is the only Lulu I know, Mr. Lyon. How does it happen that you are acquainted with her?
You see this carnation?
I see it, yes.
Lulu sold it to me, overcharged me, scandalously, as a matter of fact.
Well, Lulu is a working girl. She must live. How does it happen you know her?
What makes you think I do?
You know her name?
Oh, one of the other customers called her that while I was still in the shop. As it happens, it was this little fellow you just pointed out to me over there, the vice president, Fodor.
Third vice president.
I hate to keep harping on these commercial matters, Faculty, old man, but just how does my $20,000 reward come into the picture?
Let us retire to my inner office, Harry. I never tell you.
Okay,
Come.
old man.
Sit down, please, Harry. Have another cigar.
My pockets are bulging with cigars now, old man. Let's concentrate on the $20,000.
Certainly, certainly. Oh, Miss Carver. Miss Carver.
Yes, Mr. Feckety?
No matter who calls, don't disturb me. Not on any account. I'm having an important conference.
Yes, Mr. Feckety.
Oh, jealousy, Harry. Jealousy is a terrible thing.
Yes, certainly is. Now, about this reward.
Jealousy is the green-eyed monster who doth mock the meat it feeds on. That's how the poet Shakespeare expresses
the
it.
poet Shakespeare said a mouthful, and now...
But still, if it had not been for jealousy, I would never have followed this Fodor into Lulu's shop. And if I hadn't done that, I would never have discovered the digging.
Digging? What digging?
What would you say, Harry, if I were to tell you that running under the street from Lulu's flower shop to this bank, there is a tunnel?
A tunnel?
What would you say if I told you that?
Well, I'd say, well, what do you know? That's what I'd say.
That's what I said when I found out about it. And that's why I say now that I mustn't ever forget to be grateful to jealousy. Particularly since I've discovered that there's nothing between Lolo and Fodor. Or nothing serious.
And do you know what I'd say to that?
No?
A couple of rude words.
Yeah, but why?
Why? You find them scrabbling away together like a couple of chubby moles, digging away in the general direction of your bank vault, and you say there's nothing serious between them?
There isn't, I'm sure of that. I have Lulu's file. And besides, what could she possibly see in a fat little nonentity like Fodor? No, the only one who thinks it's serious is Fodor. And that's the whole point. Fodor is a dupe, a mere cat's paw in the conspiracy.
Oh, yes? And who's the mastermind?
I am.
Uh-huh. And what does Fodor think about that?
He languishes in ignorance. He knows nothing. And to think that he aspires, he dares to aspire to my position in the bank.
And how does Lulu fit in?
I must tell you that Lulu has given me some reason to hope that she will someday make me the happiest man in the world.
And how would she do that? By giving up Fodor or sending you a big bouquet of roses? Let's get down to cases, old man. Wedding bells can ring out from Budapest to back again, but I won't be there to throw any rice unless I get paid. What is it exactly you want from me? Lessons on how to help Fodor and Lulu rob your bank?
Fodor's going to do the robbing, and besides, it isn't my bank. I'm only a salary officer.
And then Fodor gives you the money to give to Lulu, is that it?
Certainly not. That would be silly.
That's just what I was thinking.
No, every day Fodor is supposed to take the paper money from the various cages and place it in the vault.
Yeah?
This is his responsibility.
Yeah?
Tonight, however, he will not do this. He will leave the money outside the vault, hidden in a large filing cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the entire plan has been carefully worked out, I can assure you.
All I can say is this Fodor of yours is a very cooperative type of cat's paw.
Don't call him this Fodor of yours. He isn't. He's no Fodor of mine.
Have it your own way, old man. What comes next? You, I suppose, huh? You come a half hour later with a dark lantern and a gunny sack. You wrap up the money, join Lulu, who's been waiting for you across the street in the flower shop, and the two of you, hand in hand, move off down the road into the sunrise and also into the very choicest Hungarian hooskow.
What is a hooskow?
A jail or prison, a place of forcible incarceration, a lockup for bad little bank robbers.
Not at all, not at all. It is Fodor who goes to prison.
Oh, yes? And how do you work that?
That is one of the things I want you to arrange.
Oh, I see. I'm going to have to earn in that $20,000. I think we'll start by having it deposited in my name and in somebody else's bank, old man.
Why now? And why another bank?
Well, every bank in Budapest isn't going to be robbed tonight, so I think I'd prefer one of the others. And I'll take it now because I know you wouldn't want me to go to the police with what is, after all, a fairly sordid little story.
Go to the police, but that's blackmail.
Oh, watch your language, old man. Blackmail's a nasty word. You know, all I want is protection for my poor little $20,000. I'll give you service for it, too, but I want to be absolutely positive that you're ready to meet your payroll.
Very well. You'll have your money, but you will help me.
I'm going to need a few more solid facts, old man.
Well, it all began with this insane jealousy of mine for Fodor.
Oh, yeah?
I took to following him. He used to go into Lulu's flower shop at night long after it was closed. And one time he left the shutter unfastened and I went in. There were no lights in the shop itself, but I could hear voices from the basement below. I opened the trapdoor very carefully so as not to be heard. And what do you think I saw?
You saw Lulu, Fodor, and 3 men all hard at work digging a tunnel.
Yeah. How did you know?
I didn't, I guess. After all, you told me there was a tunnel.
But the 3 men, how did you know about them?
Still guessing. It's pretty obvious that Mr. Fodor and Lulu couldn't dig much of a hole without getting some help. Tell me this. It was Lulu who persuaded you to call me in on this deal, wasn't it?
How did you know that?
Still just guessing, old man, just guessing. Now, let me guess on for a minute and stop me when I'm wrong. When you saw what Lulu and Fodor were doing, you went home and brooded for a while, and then a few days afterwards, you confronted her.
It was the next day.
Oh, okay, it was the next day. And Lulu admitted she was planning to rob the bank, but said she was just using Fodor, and you were the only one she really cared about. And if you joined the party, it's you she'd run off with, leaving Mr. Fodor holding the bag. An empty bag. How am I doing?
Oh, you're a clever man.
Sure I am. That's why Lulu had you send for me.
You see, the idea is that Fodor will hide the money outside the vault and leave. Then, according to the arrangement, as he understands it, Lulu will come through the tunnel at night with her helpers and take the money back under the street through the tunnel.
Who did she tell Fodor these helpers were?
She said one of them is her brother and the other 2 are cousins.
And what did she tell you?
That's what she told me. Why?
Nothing, old man. Nothing at all. Just give me one more guess,
Oh, go ahead.
After Fodor leaves the money, what you do is crawl back through the tunnel with a sack of currency clenched in your teeth. But no, that wouldn't make any sense, would it? You'd run into a couple of brothers crawling in the opposite direction.
I'm not to have anything to do with the tunnel. You see, Fodor leaves the money out just before closing time. That way, he's implicated, and we have a scapegoat. So there's nothing to stop me from letting myself in with my key at night and walking away with the money. Who could suspect me? It's a perfect crime, Harry. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes, it's quite a crime if you look at it in one way. But tell me about the brothers. What are they supposed to think about all this?
Oh, they don't know about it. Lulu hasn't told them.
But the news will reach them eventually, and what then?
They must be implicated somehow, along with Fodor. But I must be protected, and Lulu. That's what you're here for, Harry. Have another cigar.
Orson Welles returns in just a moment as the third man. And now, Orson Welles as the third man continues with today's story, Too Many Crooks.
Naturally, the first thing I did after making my farewells to Mr. Feckerty was to go across the street and pay a call on Lulu.
Harry,
Yeah?
listen to me carefully.
I'm listening, honey.
There's a little cafe on the hill above the old city. You know the place? There's a gold rooster on the roof.
Well, what about it?
Go there and wait for me. You never can tell when Fodor Feckerty will be bursting in here. They keep jumping across the street to check up on each other and buying geraniums. Go to the cafe, and I'll be with you as soon as I can close up
What
here.
about the boys below?
Oh, what do you mean?
The construction crew, the Corellis.
Oh, Feckerty told you about the Corellis?
I would have found out anyway, Lily.
Lulu.
Okay, what happens to them if you shut up the store? Isn't there a way out?
No, but they won't be finished work before I'm back. And besides, what they don't know won't hurt them.
Lily, or rather Lulu, it looks to me as though just about everybody around here is due to be hurt by what they don't know. I found the Gold Rooster and sat down on the terrace of the restaurant to wait for Mr. Feckerty's fiancée. Over a glass of Tokay, I tried to add up the situation as of then. As far as I could see, the whole setup was like a Picasso painting. No matter how you looked at it, it was cockeyed and upside down.
Hello, Harry. Don't order anything for
Hi.
me. I haven't time.
Don't worry, Lily. I'm not here to celebrate. We can have our party after I know who's going to pay the check.
I wish you'd call me Lulu.
Okay, Lulu. Now, here's all the sense I can make out of this little caper. You came here with the Corelli gang,
No,
right?
they came first. Then they sent for me to work in the flower shop for a front. The tunnel was their idea.
Then you sent for me. That was your idea.
Right.
Now, Fodor thinks he's going to divvy up with the Corellis and marry you on the proceeds.
Something like
And
that.
Feckerty thinks something like the same something. The president thinks he's going to put it over the vice president. What about the construction crew?
You mean Walter and the
Yes,
others?
the Corellis, the original burglars. What are they going to get out of this? According to Feckerty, it's going to be the old double cross. But if I know you, Feckerty's in for the same gentle treatment.
Harry, why should anybody get anything out of this except...
Okay, Lily, okay. Book a couple of spaces for us on the first milk train out of Budapest, but be sure to get reservations on the bulletproof car.
I wish you'd call me Lulu.
Time marches on. A lot of trusting Hungarian depositors line up at the bank, leave their hard-earned pengos at the impressive-looking gilt cages for what they fondly believe is safekeeping, and hurry home to have their evening plate of goulash. Closing time comes and goes. Feckerty doesn't leave. He just pretends to, and stays skulking in his office. Meanwhile, Fodor takes the big packages of pengos, which, as you know, is Hungarian for money, dutifully to the door of the vault. He slams the vault loudly, this being for the benefit of the janitor, who is deaf anyway and doesn't hear, and quickly stows the loot in the empty filing cabinet, which he has thoughtfully left nearby for just this purpose. He then goes home and passes a very restless night. The moon rises over the city and winks at its own reflection in the Danube. A lot of good Hungarians are in their beds. The others are all in a nightclub called the Arizona, dancing a Shardash. They do not come into this story, so we'll leave them dancing. Down onto the street, the Corellis, those adept bank robbers, continue to dig. They are putting the finishing touches on their tunnel, and we will not listen in on them because their conversation is very vulgar indeed. In his luxurious office, Mr. Feckerty sits biting his nails and dreaming of a long West Indian cruise with Lulu in an adjoining deck chair. As the gang in the tunnel understand it, when the clock strikes 12, they are to open the secret trap door, which they have previously prepared inside the bank, a section of tiling near the vault, go to the filing cabinet and take out the money which Fodor has left there. thus eliminating the noise and inconvenience of breaking into the vault, and, first closing the loose tile after themselves, scuttle back with the loot under the street into the flower shop, out into the night, and as far away from Hungary as possible. As I say, that's the way the gang in the tunnel understand it. This is also the arrangement as Mr. Fodor understands it, with a trifling difference that he expects Lulu to stop by for him with his share of the profits. Like Mr. Fekete, he is biting his nails and dreaming of tropical cruises. And what of Lulu? What of Lulu, indeed? It is Lulu's little plan to foozle everybody, Corelli, Fodor, and Fekete. She's led them all on to just this point. It is the point of departure. Lulu's departure. Lulu and all those neatly wrapped packages of pingos. The trouble is, it's all just a little bit too much for one little girl to handle alone, so Harry Lime's been sent for. Harry is supposed to assist at the general foozling of one and all, and then, in due time, of course, he's to be foozled as well. Lulu will send Harry off to mail a postcard, and when he gets back, Lulu will have continued her travels alone, with nothing to keep her company but the loot. That, as I say, is the way Lulu understands it. The clock, high in the steeple of San Stefano, strikes 12. This is the signal. Mr. Corelli, that celebrated expert, with his 2 able assistants, starts toward the bank. The tunnel was not built for comfort, and the going on hands and feet is a trifle rough. There's a bit of genteel cursing, but hearts are high. At the sound of the clock, Mr. Fekete removes the bound bundles of money from their place of safety and checks once again the bolts and fastenings which keep the loose tile in its place. In the darkness, Mr. Fekete smiles. He is satisfied that, contrary to the Corelli's expectations, the bank end of the tunnel is firmly and irrevocably closed. Still smiling, he starts toting the money toward the side door for which he, Mr. Fekete, is the perfectly legal possessor of a key. On the outside, Lulu, with a high-speed car, is supposed to be waiting for him. Unfortunately, however, a moment earlier, Harry Lime, on the flower shop end of the tunnel, has persuaded Lulu to go down for a moment and tell the boys not to try lifting that trick tile for at least a half hour. Lulu hates herself now for not having analyzed the merits of this suggestion. She has plenty of time now to think this over because foxy old Harry in the flower shop has bolted down the trap door. The clock has stopped striking, of course, and Mr. Fekete pops out of his bank looking for all the world like a jolly Christmas shopper with his arms loaded with bundles. There is a high-speed car waiting for Mr. Fekete, all right, but it is full of strange gentlemen, and they are all dressed in uniforms.
Put up your hands, Fekete. Put up your hands. You're under arrest.
But there's some mistake.
Oh, not at all, old man. No mistake at all. You see, gentlemen, just as you were told, there he is, and there's the money.
Come along now, Fekete. We are taking you in.
You, Harry, a police informer.
Not a bit of it, old man. I wouldn't dream of telling on you. No, the cops got the tip-off from an anonymous letter, and you know how you spell anonymous? L-U-L-U.
Lulu. She did it.
Lulu. That wouldn't be Lulu Hartz, would it? Alias Lily the Twister.
Yes, officer, I believe so. There's a reward offered for her capture, isn't there?
I should say there is.
What about the Corelli gang?
They've got the biggest price on their heads in Central Europe.
Oh, that's lovely. It's all beginning to add up. When you throw in the generous reward Mr. Fekete posted in the name of his bank this afternoon.
But you're not going to collect that, are you?
Why not, old man? After all, you put up the money for me to collect before the bank was robbed, didn't you? You also wanted me to thwart the Corellis, and if you yourself are foolish enough to go breaking the law, you'll just have to tell it to the judge.
I'll tell him plenty. I'll tell him about you.
Go ahead. I haven't broken any laws, remember, and you'll only help me collect my various rewards.
As a matter of fact, Lime, just what is your connection with this affair? What have you done?
Officer, all I did was turn a bolt on a trap door. Nothing at all, really, just a twist to the wrist. And now, if you've got some spare handcuffs ready, I think we better open it up again. The folks down below may be getting a little fretful, and I think they'll appreciate a change of scene. If you'll come with me, officer, I'll show you the place.
Really, Mr. Lime, I can't tell you how grateful.
Please, old man, don't mention it. Pleasure, I assure you. Won't you have a cigar?
Harry Lime returns in just a moment. And now, Harry Lime.
You know, friends, I had thought of substituting those fat packages of Pengos for the same weight of old newspapers. But the rate of exchange wasn't so good on the Pengo just then, so I resisted the temptation. After all, as Mother always said, too many crooks spoil the goulash.
Hello, Yukon 28209. Yes, this is Candy Matson.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Candy Matson, Yukon 28209.
Hello?
Oh, girl, this is Rembrandt. I've been trying to get in touch with you for the last 3 days.
I've been smog-bound.
What?
I've been visiting an aunt of mine in Los Angeles, Ducky.
A fate worse than death. However, I am glad to know you're back. How's your feeling for long-hair music, Dove?
I can take it or leave it. Why?
In this case, I hope you can take it. Ever hear of a gentleman named Eric Spaulding?
The noted English symphony conductor? Oh, of course.
I used to know him in London. He's here to conduct a series of concerts.
Bully for him. I know where I can get him a baton wholesale.
He needs more than a baton, Candy, dear. He needs help. That's why I'm calling you.
What do you want me to do, look for the lost chord?
You don't know how close to being right you are, girl. Anyway, he's going to drop by my place this evening. I wonder if you could come over, too.
Well, I was going to hit the prone position early tonight, but if you really want me to be there, I'll do it.
Splendid, Candy. Come for dinner, won't you? I just bought a new chafing dish, and I'm whipping up a tasty scraping of pasta rasson.
Well, how interesting.
It is. It's spaghetti a la Watson.
Candy Matson, the girl all San Francisco claims to know personally. That's because she hits the front pages of the newspapers more often than the Three Bridges. Gates, you came in late. Candy makes a tidy little living by minding her own business. The business being one of private investigation. Take this deal with Rembrandt Watson and Eric Spaulding. It sounded innocent enough to start with. A clue here, a corpse there could make a very interesting story. One that Candy Matson can tell you about herself right now.
What did the man say? A clue here, a corpse there? Well, he's almost right. The corpse came first, the clue later. I also ran across the most ingenious device ever dreamed up to cause a man to lose his job. And I managed to get a little culture on me, whether I wanted it or not. Because in the course of this little deal, I got better acquainted with Mozart, Brahms, Beethoven, even Khachaturian. Bless you. It all began by accepting Rembrandt's invitation that night for dinner and a meeting with Eric Spaulding. For the sake of the musician, I climbed into a gown that made music as I walked. It was cut trimly on the grace notes and called for a reprise every other bar. Then I put on my coda and went over to Rembrandt's place on California Street opposite Old St. Mary's.
Candy girl, welcome to Menard Hill, Ramazere.
Thank you, dear.
Come in, come in. Breathtaking, positively breathtaking.
Thank
you. You look gorgeous in that, what is it, Candy?
If you just stop and consider the thousands of man-hours put in by little worms all over mulberry bushes, you wouldn't ask that question.
Oh, silk.
Mm-hmm. Where's the maestro?
Oh, Eric hasn't arrived yet. He'll be here shortly.
What's his problem, Ducky?
I haven't the slightest idea, but he seems terribly upset. His worry seems to concern itself with his concert tomorrow night at the Opera House.
These boys with the long hair and coattails to match, they're always worrying. I don't know how most of them manage to live so long.
Oh, help yourself to the port, dear. I had some hors d'oeuvre, but Henry, the Great Dane, beat us to them.
Henry, heavens. I haven't seen him in ages. How is he, dear?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Candy. He's missed you terribly. I'll let him in for just a moment.
Oh, no, Rembrandt, I didn't mean that.
He's missed you so, dear.
Oh, Rembrandt, he's charging me. No, Henry, no. Rembrandt, help. He's got his paws all over my brow.
Isn't that sweet? Such devotion. Candy, he adores you.
Well, tell him to do his adulation from the floor with all four paws on it. Quick, Rembrandt, I'm becoming pigeon-chested.
What a beautiful picture.
Rembrandt.
Oh, yes. Henry, down, sir. This instant. There we are.
Now I know how that mud shoal in Chesapeake Bay felt when the big mole landed on it.
Into the kitchen, Henry. Back to your side of beef. That's the lad. Oh, that must be Eric.
Or another Great Dane.
Eric, dear boy, do come in.
Thank you. Ah, what a charming place, Rembrandt. So bohemian.
That's one word for it. Personally, I call it cluttered. Candy, dear, may I present Eric Spaulding, Eric Candy Matson.
How do you do? Really quite an honor, Mr. Spaulding. I've heard many of your European recordings.
Is that a fact? Yes, I had a very good orchestra in London. Nice chaps all. Played well together.
I used to know the producer on the Standard Hour. That way I became quite familiar with the playing of the San Francisco Orchestra. How do the two compare, Mr. Spaulding?
That's like trying to compare the Atlantic Ocean with the Pacific. Both large bodies of water, but entirely different in characteristics. However, I feel the San Francisco organization would rate among the best in the world, with the proper conducting.
And you feel you can give it the proper conducting?
Most certainly.
I see.
Why don't you tell Candy about your innovation in music, Eric? I'm sure she'd be greatly interested.
Oh, yes, I'm surely.
It's nothing more nor less than applied showmanship, Miss Matson. I've always had the firm belief that music should paint a mental picture.
I imagine the composers did, too.
So I've made it a point to always include one number in my concerts where we play in fluorescent lighting.
Oh, yes, I recall reading an article in Life about that.
I've been severely criticized for it. I conduct with an illuminated baton. To me, the musical message is much better presented in that manner. The audience sits in the dark. It has a chance to interpret what the composer intended saying.
Could be.
I've been accused of everything from cheap theatricals to degrading the concert stage. But I'm sticking with it. I'm convinced the public appreciates what I'm trying to do.
Rembrandt tells me you're bothered about something, Mr. Spaulding.
Yes, I am. I'm an artiste, Miss Matson. I know only one thing, music. That's why I wish to speak to someone in your line, investigating and that sort of thing.
That sort of thing leads to money.
I know. And I'll be very glad to retain you, if you can help me find out what I want to know.
And that would be?
Someone is trying to sabotage me, Miss Matson. The San Francisco concerts are critical stepping stones in my career. I've given 2 concerts. Each time, during the selection, where we black out the lights, the orchestra, en masse, has hit one foul, rotten chord.
Well, didn't you get it straightened out in rehearsal?
That's just it. It never happened in rehearsal. I've checked the score afterward. Perfect. I've talked to the orchestra personnel. They're more amazed than I.
To say the least, it must be extremely embarrassing at a moment like that.
Believe me, words haven't been invented to describe such a feeling of mortification. The audience starts to titter, then laughs. By then, the whole thing has been shot to blazes. My reputation is at stake, Miss Matson.
I see what you mean.
I thought perhaps with your trained sleuthing instincts, you might be able to help me. My old friend Rembrandt here recommends you highly.
Thanks, old friend here. You've got me interested, Mr. Spaulding. When did you say your next performance is?
Tomorrow night at the Opera House.
Tell you what. I don't know what your contract calls for, but whatever it is, we'll split the fee and I'll go to work for you.
What? Why, that's preposterous.
Isn't the future of your career worth it, Mr. Spaulding?
Why, Very well. I think it's outrageous, but what can one do?
Okay. Now, when do you rehearse for tomorrow night's concert?
Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Very well, I'll be there. Just one word of caution. Pay no attention to me whatsoever. Make like as if I don't even exist.
Agreed.
Oh, I'm so glad everything's settled. Now we can get to the spaghetti Vasson. Me food is practically chafing at the dish. Let's have at the Wrigley stuff, shall we?
The spaghetti Wasson was magnificent. Rembrandt has the green thumb for taking the most ordinary food, adding a bird's nest or two and a dash of some witch's potion, and making it taste like ambrosia. There was only one drawback. For days after, you walked around like you had a red-hot barbecue pit in your stomach. I stopped off on my way home, bought a Chronicle, completed the journey, and piled into bed. Then I read the paper, missed Kane, caught DeRoos, glanced at the radio column, and then concentrated on the musical section. There it was, Spaulding's concert for the following evening. The first movement from Brahms first, the Fountains of Rome, the Rienzi, so on and so forth, and for his blackout selection, Swan Lake. With that, I dozed off. And before I could pick up the remnants of a dream I'd had the night before, it was morning and I was dressing in on my way to the opera house.
Just a moment, young lady. You're not with the orchestra?
No, I'm here on official business for Mr. Spaulding.
Oh, sure. Go right on in.
I passed through the stage door and onto the stage itself. Just as I did, a little faraway thought started tickling the back regions of my brain. Spaulding. By a strange quirk, there was a gal who plays first flute in the orchestra named Spaulding. I worked my way around to where the musicians were unpacking their instruments. There she was, the gal herself. Hello there.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Fine, thanks. You don't remember me, do you? I'm Candy Matson.
Oh, yes, the young lady detective. You used to drop backstage now and then for the Standard broadcast.
That's right.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you. What's this I hear about the orchestra falling on its face the last two concerts?
It's an amazing thing, Miss Matson. We're at a complete loss of words for an explanation. I understand it's front-page news all over the country.
And why not? A thing of this sort is news.
Eric's fit to be tied, of course.
I can't blame him. Incidentally, I just happened to think, isn't your name Spaulding, too?
I beg your pardon?
I said, isn't your name Spaulding, too?
Why, yes, it is. We spell it differently, however.
Oh, so?
Yes. Eric spells his name Spaulding. I have no U in my name.
Mm-hmm. You both have a decided British accent.
Oh, you think so? I rather thought I'd lost mine.
No, hardly. Tell me, how do the members of the orchestra feel about these numbers played under fluorescent light?
Well, it doesn't bother them. They think it's slightly silly, but they don't pay any attention to it. Each conductor has his own little idiosyncrasies.
I see. Well, I hope you have a fine rehearsal, Mrs. Spaulding.
Miss Spaulding.
Oh, yes, Miss.
You're going to be around for the concert this evening?
I believe so. I find it becomes more interesting all the time. Something was phony with the gal, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I tossed it off and decided to think about that angle later. In the meantime, I ducked into a quiet corner of the wings and listened carefully to the whole rehearsal. Then it came time for the blackout number, Swan Lake. It went beautifully, without a hitch. At the finish, Eric mopped his moist brow and spoke to the orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. You all know what has happened in these particular spots. The rehearsal this morning has gone beautifully. I thank you. I hardly think I need to remind you that tonight's concert will be critical, to say the least. If we repeat what has happened in the past two performances, I shudder to think what will be said of me and you as an organization. Will you all please pay a special attention to the score this evening for my sake, as well as yours? That is all, and again, I thank you.
With that, Spaulding dismissed the orchestra. I waited a reasonable length of time, then dropped around to his dressing room. The concertmeister was in with Eric, so I waited. And waited. Finally, he was alone. Or so I thought.
Oh, Miss Matson, come in.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Spaulding. I thought you were by yourself.
Oh, 1,000 pardons. Miss Matson, may I present Waldo Raimondi, my arranger?
Mr. Raimondi.
Pleasure indeed.
Now, there was something you wanted to talk about, Miss Matson?
No.
Oh, that's all right. I'm just pushing off.
Do that, will you, Waldo? And take care of that second bar after letter K. It should be an A natural.
No, Eric, not an A natural. It should be A flat.
Ah, yes, that's right. A flat.
Yes.
I'm so upset. Well, take care of it, will you, Waldo?
Righto. I'll see you back at the hotel. Very happy to have met you, Miss Matson.
Also, Mr. Raimondi.
Well?
Well, yourself.
I don't understand.
Neither do I. Let's both get with it. Are you acquainted personally with any members of the orchestra here?
Oh, in a vague sort of way.
How vague would your friendship with the first flutist be?
How did you know about her?
I didn't, but now you've told me. Almost. What about her?
I was hoping this would be kept quiet. She was my wife.
I had a hunch it was something like that. Could she have anything to do with your lack of grace notes?
No, not Nona.
Nona?
The former Mrs. Spaulding.
Well, we've got to start somewhere. She's as good a target as any.
I'm afraid you're on the wrong scent, Miss Matson. Nona and I had our differences. We split up. She came to America and joined the orchestra here in San Francisco. She's respected and admired. She wouldn't do anything to jeopardize her musical career, I'm sure.
But she might yours. Have you cut up any old capers since you've been here, Mr. Spaulding?
No, we haven't spoken. It's an unwritten rule we've both observed.
This has the same aroma Monterey has during the sardine season. Well, I'll keep plugging away. Good luck on the concert tonight. You need it. The hotel where Spaulding and Company made its headquarters was just a hop, skip, and a jump from the Opera House. But I would have looked silly getting there that way, so I drove. A simple question produced results. Waldo Raimondi was in room 1812. And before I could ponder whether that was from the overture of the same number, I was there.
Come in, please.
Oh, hello. Come in, won't you?
Thank you. I hope I'm not disturbing you.
Oh, no, not at all. Seems we have a music lover in our midst. However, don't you think Eric might resent this little visit? Why, you little...
Cut it, Raimondi. You're lucky I only slapped your face. I'm here on business only.
Get out of here.
Not yet, small time. I want to have a little talk with you.
Who do you think you are, walking in here and making demands of me?
The name is Miss Matson. That doesn't mean anything to you, I'm sure, but I happen to be a private investigator.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think that... you will forgive me, won't you?
I'll call a meeting of the board and let you know. I've got a couple of questions to ask. Give me the right answers and we'll both save time.
Gladly, if I can.
How long have you been with Spaulding?
Almost 17 years.
Did you know that the first flutist here was once his wife?
Yes. We don't talk about it. Neither do we talk to her.
What about this studied confusion that's occurred during the last two concerts?
It's most incredible. None of us can understand it.
No, none of us. Doesn't it strike you that a whole symphony orchestra just couldn't possibly go sour unless the whole symphony orchestra had agreed?
Or unless the score was wrong. But that couldn't be it either. Both Eric and I have checked immediately afterward, and that leaves us...
nowhere.
Exactly. I have only one further suggestion.
And that would be...
Get better acquainted with Nona Spaulding.
What do you mean by that?
You're a private investigator, Miss Matson. Why not apply the tools of your trade?
The whole thing was becoming as simple as hydrogen. Using my cool Sam Spade logic, I decided to do nothing until after the concert that evening. So I went home to my penthouse on Telegraph Hill, showered, and slipped into something movie writers would have described as... comfortable. Then I called Rembrandt on the phone.
Rembrandt Watson Studios.
This is Candy Matson, private eyeball.
How delightful. We both got to plug in.
Yes.
What's on your mind now?
You, dear. How would you like to attend the Spaulding concert tonight?
Oh, Candy, I've heard music before.
So have I. But this is more or less a command performance.
I recognize the command in your voice. Very well. Shall I dress?
It's customary, isn't it?
I mean, how would you like me? In soup and fish?
No, Ducky, I've seen your soup and fish. It's covered with soup and fish. No, just come as you are.
Oh, Candy.
Very well. As you say, dress. I'll pick you up about 7:30.
Splendid. Where are we sitting? The Diamond Horseshoe?
That's right. Backstage in the wings. I bustled about getting ready. As long as I was going to be backstage, I didn't have to get too fancy. So in practically nothing flat, I was out in the car and once again driving over to Rembrandt's place. He was ready, he jumped in, and we took off for the Opera House. The carriage trade was arriving at the carriage trade entrance, so I found a place to park out in back, and then we went in, talked to Wally, one of the stagehands, and got 2 chairs on the left. Just at that moment, the concertmeister gave the cue for the orchestra to tune up. That was Spaulding's cue to float out from stage right and make his entrance. He carried more ham per pound than you'd find in a Chicago stockyard. He minced to the podium, bowed, scraped, and faced the orchestra. It all started nicely enough, even though the orchestra was playing as if it were sitting on eggs. First the Brahms, then Fountains of Rome. They took a bath in the first fountain,
It felt so good they went on to another. Then another, and they were through all the fountains. Now it was time for the production number. The lights dimmed. The fluorescent lights on the music stands came on. Spaulding flipped a switch and his baton lit up. You could feel a tenseness come over the audience, and the orchestra started hatching its eggs. Eric gave the downbeat, and Swan Lake was underway. Everyone seemed to feel that the worst was over. You could almost hear the snapping of spines as the audience relaxed and settled back in their seats. And that's when it happened. It had happened again. The most horrible-sounding chord I'd ever heard. The audience stood up.